Lance Armstrong. The U.S. anti-doping agency accuses him of cheating, getting him barred from a competition just over a week away. Armstrong fiercely denies those claims. So what's at stake for the man who won the Tour de France 7 times? Let's talk about it with Fred Tesey, a former federal prosecutor. Jennifer Bongine is a criminal defense attorney. Dr. Marty McCary, physician and professor of public health at Johns Hopkins. Welcome to each of you. Fred, do you, first of all, the Justice Department investigated Lance Armstrong for a long time, couldn't find any evidence that he had been involved in doping. Now along comes the U.S. anti-doping agency, and I guess they've got a lower burden of proof?
They do, John. They have a lower burden of proof, and don't forget, the French don't like this guy a lot, and they went after him for years. And this guy's been kind of a personal hero to me. So personally, I got a real problem with this. But ultimately, sometimes when you're a prosecutor, when it's your job to uphold the law, you have to do things that may be personally offensive. I think the guy's been an inspiration to cancer patients for years. But let's get this figured out and find out once and for all, and if this is true or not.
Jennifer, if there wasn't enough evidence for the Justice Department to bring criminal charges, why should the ADA go after him?
I can't think of a greater waste of taxpayer money. The Department of Justice conducted a 2-year exhaustive investigation, and they could not find enough evidence to even indict the man. And now the U.S. anti-doping agency comes along. It doesn't appear as if they have any better evidence, any different evidence. In fact, so much of this evidence is based on snitch testimony, other people who are known dopers who allegedly saw Armstrong do this. The reality is for a 20-year career, he's never failed a drug test. Enough is enough. Put up or shut up. And they can't do it, and they need to go away and quit wasting our money.
Apparently, well, talk about wasting money, Fred. He has spent millions defending himself, and as he points out, 500 drug tests, and he hasn't failed a single one of them.
Hey, look, he's the most tested athlete probably in the history of athletics. So, and he hasn't failed one. And if you believe these people's conspiracy theory, this went on for 10 or 12 years over 3 separate teams. And Jennifer's right. The Feds didn't indict this guy. The French never went after him. And so, sooner or later, what I don't like about this, even as a prosecutor, is they've now banned him. He's 41 years old.
Yeah.
He was trying for the Kona Ironman triathlon. He placed second in Panama recently. This is almost like a life sentence. He's guilty until proven innocent.
Well, Jennifer, what about what Fred said earlier? Is it possible that the French, who didn't like this American guy winning their race year after year after year, that they're really behind this?
I don't know if they're behind it, but it definitely seems like a vendetta. And, even though the U.S. anti-doping agency isn't a prosecuting agency, they can't prosecute criminal charges against him, it's still unfair to take away a man's legacy based on this, cruddy evidence, quite honestly.
Yeah, Fred, it's a lower burden of proof for the ADA to bring these charges. Sort of like, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in the criminal case. They came back at him with a civil case, and they got a judgment against him. Is that the same kind of thing that we're looking at here?
It is. It's the same kind of thing. It's a lower burden of proof. But something, John, when I went off to the U.S. Attorney's Office, a federal judge once said to me, discretion is the better part of valor. And to what end, if they prove this? How many cancer patients have lied in bed at night, ravaged by the disease and the toxic drugs that treat it, and thought to themselves, if Lance Armstrong can get through this and survive and win the Tour de France, I can make it through. So what do they really hope to accomplish by all this? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of people don't. Fred Tesey, Jennifer Bongine, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Well, a huge